The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Renee, the editor of Blue Line Magazine, Canada's only independent magazine for law enforcement. Today's webinar will delve into how numerous law enforcement agencies have decided against using a camera-only hardware device, and instead are utilizing the power of a smartphone to incorporate body-worn camera functionality. This one-hour online session is brought to you by Blue Line, as well as Visual Labs, a Silicon Valley-based software company that calls itself the body camera company that does not make body cameras. The company has its beginnings at Stanford University, where a group of computer science majors worked on a smartphone-based video solution as part of a senior project. Shortly thereafter, Visual Labs was formed. Its smartphone body camera solution is an innovative, cost-efficient alternative to the traditional single-purpose proprietary body camera hardware device. The Visual Labs solution has been implemented throughout the United States in the public safety, private security, and industrial sectors. Leading today's webinar will be Alex Popoff, the company's Chief Executive Officer, and Alexander Popoff, the company's Chief Operating Officer. Both Alex and Alexander have been speakers at numerous events on the subject of body camera technology, connectivity of smart devices, and technology trends in the public safety sector. If you have questions during the webinar, type them into the questions box on your panel. They will be answered at the end. And if you have to leave the webinar for whatever reason during the hour, don't sweat it. We are emailing out a link to all who registered that will feature the webinar recording. With that, I will hand it off to our fantastic presenters.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Renee. This is Alexander, and my colleague Alex is with me.
Good afternoon.
And good morning to some of you. I know we've got all across both Canada and the United States and all the time zones. So we certainly appreciate everyone joining us. As I said, as Renee said, this is Visual Labs, and we call ourselves the body camera company that does not make body cameras. And that's certainly a head scratcher for some, and hopefully by the end of this session, you will understand what we're talking about there, using smartphones instead of proprietary devices that can often be very, very expensive. So anyway, we're going to have a PowerPoint. We're going to get into a little bit of a video later on, and then finish up with a PowerPoint. And hopefully we'll get everyone done well within the hour. So for our first slide here. There we go, Visual Labs, the company. So just chatting just very quickly about the company itself. We're not a hardware company. We are a software company based in Silicon Valley, California. We're actually in Menlo Park. We've got Stanford University on one side of us. We've got Facebook on the other side, and all the tech companies, right here in the valley. Our product is software, and it's two components. It's software that goes on a smartphone, and then we have the back-end website, which is the video management platform, and that's where users are able to manage and view the video, as well as all the advanced analytics, which we'll get into. As I mentioned, we do not make hardware. We are not a hardware company. We serve law enforcement, private security, industrial, and right now, all throughout the United States, both small, medium, large, campus, sheriffs, police, constables, marshals, a whole wide range of law enforcement, as well as campus security and others in the private sector. The solution itself, we'll talk about this and kind of get into some of the details a little bit. It is a body camera and evidence management solution. So not only does it have the complete body camera functionality, but you've got the evidence management components of that. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. We're using off-the-shelf Android smartphones. So using that computing power of a smartphone, because it's really a small computer, where we can provide much more than just a typical body camera. We get audio recordings, digital camera, the location, the GPS, a lot of functionality, and then it's still a fully functioning smartphone. So you can text message, make phone calls, everything there. And so that's one of the reasons why we say BWC to us is body-worn computer. And the key, I think, for hopefully many of the participants here listening in, it's an alternative to what is a costly proprietary camera-only systems. And we know there's plenty of body camera companies out there, and their cameras themselves are fine, but in essence, they are just cameras. And in our solution, you get a connected computer using that full law enforcement grade body camera system, evidence management in the United States, CJIS compliant. So we meet all these security standards. This is not just a put together, easily put together system. So very secure. The paradigm shift, this is really getting into the paradigm shift itself, that on the left-hand side, you see the status quo, multiple hardware devices, that you have body cameras, you've got digital cameras, audio recorders, AVL locators, the automatic vehicle locators in the car, docking stations, wiring that goes into various locations, whether it's remote offices or your main headquarters. All that is gone with respect to our system. What we have is what we call the future-proof smart device. So it's a smartphone plus the Visual Lab software, and then again the back-end website. All that prior hardware, those individual single-purpose devices now get combined and use a single device, only one thing to manage and carry. We've got automatic upload and all kinds of features that we'll get into here. So it's that shift of saying, let's get away from single-purpose hardware and replace that with an all-in-one connected smart device. One of the questions we often get is, well, how does this, explain to me, how does it work? How do people wear it? And the nice thing about law enforcement and others out there, they're very, very creative as to, how you could mount these in different positions. And so there's just a sampling from some of our clients around the country where they've put in whether they're wearing an outer vest, whether they've got a MOLLE clip system, elastic, special pockets. A belt mount actually works because of, many of the phones have wide angle lenses. What you can see, I'm going to point you up to the picture in the top left, which is one of our clients. And this particular phone, what you can see is a red button sticking from the side of the phone. That's a programmable button. Not all phones have them, and we don't need them to make our system work. But that helps to get the recording. We use that to start and stop the recording, makes it very simple. Otherwise, we can use volume buttons and different things like that. That particular phone is IP68 rated, which means it's waterproof and dustproof, and MIL 810G, which is the sort of drop resistant and high temperature, low temperature. I know for those in Canada, you might be wondering, gee, will this survive the cold? We have many clients in Minnesota and the mountains of Colorado, and we have not had any issues. We also have them in the deserts of Southern California. So these phones are actually very tough. You can ultimately, the phone purchase or the phone choice is that of the agency, but we typically would recommend a ruggedized phone. That's why we use the Android phones, because there's many ruggedized choices. So we're gonna jump here to a video. This is where our solution was used at the Super Bowl, both by law enforcement outside the stadium and as part of NFL security within the stadium. Two different groups they're using it. We're going to play the video. Hopefully, it comes through with each of your individual internet connection. If for some reason it doesn't, you see down at the bottom here of this screen. If you just do a Google search, Super Bowl body cameras, you will find the video itself, and then you can play it. So I'm going to try to play this right now, and hopefully everything's going to work well. We're going to do that, and hopefully this works for you all. Okay, I think we should be back in. So hopefully all that worked for you and you got to see that video again. If for some reason it didn't come through, if you just do a Google search, Super Bowl body cameras. So anyway, we are going to go forward here. Here's one of the things that was shown on the video. It's one of the officer safety and operational efficiency components of the program, the real-time positional awareness. And because a smartphone has not only built-in GPS, but it will do cellular triangulation and pinging off known Wi-Fi hotspots to get that accuracy. You've got outdoor accuracy somewhere in the 3 to 5 meter range. So generally you'll know even what side of the street if you zoomed in on this officer. And this is an actual shot from one of our clients who coded the north sector and the south sector in different colors. And they've got animal control and code enforcement in different icons so they can see each one going on. And if this was live, you would see each officer moving along the street, or if they were stationary, and you could zoom in and get real-time positional awareness. On the left side, you can also see that whether or not the officer is recording, whether they're live streaming. In this case, everyone's connected, but if they were offline, you would see, that they would potentially be offline. And as a sort of a handy tool, you can see the battery life. So if someone's running low on battery, they can just come out and swap out the phones or just put it on a quick charger for a little bit while they're writing a report. The other thing that they mentioned, we'll show you here a little bit, is the real-time situational awareness, and that's live streaming. This is a simulation where you would see on the left side, this is a satellite view of exactly where the person is, and on the right side, the actual live stream from the camera itself. So we're going to jump to a demonstration here, and give you a little bit of live stream and see how all that works. So we're going to jump here and get that going. So what you've got on this page is you've got, again, similar that you saw before on the left-hand side. In this case, it's just me being connected, and that is my real battery life at 75%. And this is where we are in Menlo Park, California. So that is a real-time position for us here. These two are simulated, but you could have potentially officers all over town, all over the country, in theory, and see that. And as they're walking, they would leave little breadcrumbs, and you can track where they're going, whether they're on horseback, bicycle, foot patrol, ATV, anything that, as long as they've got that smartphone with them. So if you remember back on the first picture, we're going to start a video recording here. It's not going to be too interesting on the WebEx itself because there's not much you can see. But if you remember the red button on that one phone that we showed, or again, if the particular phone doesn't have a red button, we can use the volume buttons to start a recording. So just a simple tap, we're going to tap that on the recording.
Camera recording started.
And the phone vibrated and gave that sound effect. Those are optional settings. And as you can see up in the left side panel, I am now recording. So I'm on a traffic stop and pulling my colleague over here for going through the stop sign. A typical body camera recording, no need to live stream, just a standard recording. So then holding that button down for a long time, making sure that 3 seconds, making sure it's not an inadvertent turning off the phone.
Recording stopped.
That will stop the recording, and as you can see then on the left-hand side, we go from recording back to connected. The nice thing here, at this point, all that footage, it gets a digital fingerprint for the chain of custody so that it can prove authenticity. And no, the officer cannot edit the video, cannot delete the video. It is saved there, and it's saved encrypted on the device. So it gets encrypted, gets that digital fingerprint. It then gets automatically uploaded directly to the cloud. Secure cloud storage, obviously for the Canadian clients, it would be in Canada. In the United States, we use the Microsoft Government Cloud, the Azure Government. And so it's automatically uploaded there. And then once that upload is verified, it's deleted from the device. So storage capacity on the device is never an issue. If for some reason the officer was in a remote area, it would stay on the device and stay encrypted until there was connectivity. So that's a very handy thing. Makes it much more efficient, where you really have virtually no interaction needed by the officers. If they want, they can tag and add case numbers before the upload, but that's an optional process for them. So we're going to jump to a live stream here. And this is one of the officer safety components, both protects the officer and provides the command staff with tools to manage a situation. So if you had some type of critical situation, we'll go to my individual page, and here we are again at the same location in Menlo Park. And not only can we provide live video and audio feedback, dispatch, someone with the right permissions, someone on the command staff can actually start that remotely. So you'll have to trust me here. I'm on the web portal here, starting a live stream video. You have to give a justification requested by user, or God forbid, user not responsive. We're just going to have demonstration and testing here. And my colleague is holding the smartphone. Again, trust us, we're not doing anything behind the scenes other than letting this go. And there we are, live, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's real-time situational awareness, and there's our office, and there's a live stream of a live stream of a live stream going through there. So we're going to end that video,
Ending video
and
stream.
go back. So that's just one of the many officer safety features. It said, briefly said that there we were streaming, and now we're back to connected. So one of the things that you're not going to find with the typical camera-only body camera, because they're not connected devices. And this is just a giant leap forward for officer safety. We're going to go to video playback here. And so video that we were showing, let's say it's a standard body camera video. What you have in each case, you've got the video on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you've got the actual location. So this was a walk around Stanford Stadium, where we just were walking along as a sample video. And what you'll see is this upside down green arrow behind the green flag. The green is the start, and the checkered flag is where the video ended. And so as the video plays on the left side, you can see that marker move along the right-hand side. So it's a great tool for after-the-fact forensics. I'm going to switch to the satellite view and jump over here to the visitor section. And as I click that particular point in the video, what you'll see on the left-hand side is the video actually jump to that point. And so as we play the video now, what you can see is the video playing on the left side as I'm walking down the sidewalk, and on the right-hand side, the representation on a Google map, whether that's street or satellite, so that if something happened right here in the video, you could pause it and go back and find exactly what that happened, whether it was a weapon or a bag of drugs or something thrown out of a car or during a foot pursuit. We also have the tags here, where you can add various tags. You can modify the tags. You can add an annotation, so that we've got free-form annotation text. And if you ever jump to that point, it will go right to that point in the video. So lots of analytics. Again, we can add other data as well for the video management, and then everything that had that case number. In this case, we have incident 1234AB. If you uploaded any other documents, photos with that same case number, it would all be searchable. I'm going to show you one more feature. We've got lots of analytics, but just due to time, this one's just kind of, we like to show this. It's sort of a neat feature. This is called location playback, and it's a great for analytics. I'm going to tell a story a little bit later in the webinar about how one of our agencies used this and saved them quite a bit of money from the analytics. But this is the 3 to 11 shift at Stanford University, where the patrol officers were there. So over the course of 30 seconds, I'm going to play back the entire 8-hour shift. So we're starting here at the police station, and then as you can see, each of the patrol officers is on their beat, walking around and checking the various buildings and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And at any point in time, you can pause the video and say, okay, here at 17:30 hours, where were the officers and at what speed were they going? So we also have heat maps. We've got geofencing and check-in geofences to make sure people go through specific geofences. There's all kinds of analytics behind the scenes here, because we're using this body-worn computer connected device. So that's pretty much it for the demonstration part. We're going to jump back here to the PowerPoint and talk a little bit about the solution specifically. So as we said, it's a body camera and evidence management solution using off-the-shelf Android smartphones, a body-worn computer, and an alternative to the costly proprietary camera-only systems that are out there. So talking about the body camera and evidence management solution first, as I said, it's body camera video. That's where it's used the most. Typical traffic stops, citizen interactions, recording that video to protect the public safety from unfounded claims and to just document the situation. But as I mentioned, it's an all-in-one device, so it also takes photographs, just like a digital camera, audio recordings like an audio recorder, And all that is part of the ecosystem with that digital fingerprint and the encryption and the location of where that footage took place. We can also ingest evidence provided by citizens, so screenshots, maybe a threatening text message that someone got. They could take a screenshot and share it with an officer, an investigator, and that could be ingested into the system with that same case number so that it becomes part of that evidence ecosystem, so someone analyzing the case can get all that. We can also bring in internal reports generated by the agency, whether that's PDF, Word, Excel, many other formats, and bring that into the entire process here. And then all of those reports are searchable by multiple fields. We can add that case number, so if someone was then searching for a case number, they would get any body camera, video, photographs, audio, citizen interactions, any external documents that were added, and we can generate lots of reports for doing that. So very, very powerful system. The off-the-shelf Android smartphone, we alluded to this a little bit before. It's at the choice of the agency. As long as it's an Android phone, relatively recent, within a couple of years. There are many ruggedized devices out there meeting these IP68 or IP67 standards. That means dustproof, waterproof, and the drop proof, and the high temperature, low temperature, humidity. So you don't have to worry about being out there in harsh weather, which I know, unfortunately, law enforcement has to do that. HD video quality, the quality is actually configurable based on the device. We can go anywhere from black and white to 4K. Both of those on those extremes are really not practical, but it's something we could do. And most of these phones have, these ruggedized phones have very long battery life. Typically, on the use case here in the States, we're seeing 12 to 14 hours, easily going a shift. And there's plenty of fast chargers and wireless chargers and things. And again, it's an all-in-one device. So you're getting all that functionality with only one piece of hardware to keep track of. BWC, as we say, body-worn computer, one of the keys is it's connected. And so that's where you don't need a router, you don't need any other hardware. The only piece of hardware in our system is the smartphone itself. There's no wiring, you don't have to pair it with anything, you don't need a camera paired to a separate smartphone, which some systems use. It's just the smartphone itself. And then that can be used again by officers, not only in vehicles, but on foot patrol, bicycle patrol, horseback, ATV, where just having a router would just be absolutely impractical. All the officer safety features, because of its connectivity and being able to see where the officer is, the real-time positional awareness, and then that real-time situational awareness through live streaming. Automatic upload, as I mentioned, for operational efficiency. So an officer would open the screen, log in at the beginning of the shift, and potentially never touch the smartphone again other than the button to turn it on and off. And that footage would all upload, and command staff or anyone with the right permissions could be watching footage minutes after it took place because of the automatic upload. And then because it's a fully functioning smartphone and there's nothing that we do, nothing our software adds that interferes with the use as a smartphone, you've got a backup line of communication. You can text, you can make phone calls, add other applications, weather alert applications, put your department email, Lexipol for policies, various things can all go on the device. The alternative to costly proprietary camera-only systems. Obviously, budget's a concern almost always with law enforcement. This is a multi-purpose hardware device. It's all in one. Many hardware options, any Android smartphone, small, medium, large, super ruggedized, general ruggedized, all kinds of different things. And we like to think it's a future-proof situation because of the continuous innovation of all the smartphone manufacturers out there, whether it's Samsung or Sonom or Kyocera or BlackBerry, Motorola, coming out with newer and better, faster, more powerful smartphones all the time. And by relying on these external worldwide forces, you're not being dependent on a specific manufacturer saying, oh yes, we plan to upgrade our device in the next year or two, or if we upgrade it, we'll give you an upgrade, but you really don't know if they're going to have any, significant change to their hardware, versus everyone here is trying to compete against each other and coming up with great new innovations. Our pricing is a monthly cost per device, which includes storage. So the key here is we don't have any extra charges. We just have a low, flat monthly fee, including all the storage. We don't charge for download fees, seat licenses for record staff or prosecuting attorneys. We just don't believe in the miscellaneous charges model. And then we have no long-term commitment. We have clients, a few on the month-to-month and a few 5 years. Generally, they're in the 1 to 2 year, but we don't require any long-term commitment. We don't feel that anyone should be locked into someone's proprietary ecosystem. And then the fact that we're willing to go on a very short term keeps us and keeps the quality of service absolutely A+. All our references, I think, that's one of the things we're most proud of. A, that we've never lost a client, and B, everyone will say we are very, very responsive and provide just excellent customer service. A couple of other just quick things: advanced analytics for proactive policing with the geofence reporting and the heat maps. The liability reduction, and this goes back to that location playback. It's unfortunately, ultimately a tragic story, but one of our agencies in suburban Denver, Colorado, Federal Heights, had been using the TASER Axon system, switched over to our system, and we ran into the chief about a month later, and he came up to me and said, Alexander, I think your system has just paid for itself for at least the next 10 years. You saved me probably $1 million. And that was great news to hear, but I didn't quite know what he was talking about. And within Federal Heights, Colorado, they have a no pursuit policy over 50 miles an hour. And they unfortunately got into a pursuit with a suspect. The speeds got close to 50, and the officer called off the pursuit and turned back to the station. And unfortunately, that suspect continued through the city and about 2 miles down the road caused a fatal traffic accident, killing a woman. And the chief said, this has happened in the past, and they have been sued for, quote, causing that accident. And they only had to rely in the past on the good word of the officer saying, oh no, I didn't go over 50 miles an hour, and this is, I stopped the chase. Here, using that location playback, they could actually plot the exact path of the officer, sync to a network, standard time. They knew exactly when he turned around. In this case, the speed never exceeded 51 miles an hour, and he was back at the station a minute before the accident actually occurred. So he said no lawsuit whatsoever. They didn't even settle because of the nuisance factor. They had the absolute unequivocal proof. Again, the geofencing and reporting and ease of training and deployment, we can deploy within almost 24 hours. Just once we have things set up on the back end, we're deploying a device that almost everyone knows how to use, and almost everyone is carrying a smartphone with them now. Again, we're not using anything special. They just start it and stop it. The other benefit, because we're a software company, and we've got all that computer power behind it, is integration with a CAD system, where for some clients we are extracting data from their CAD system and pairing that up with body camera footage. So that's one thing. It's obviously system dependent, but it's another thing, another benefit of the Visual Lab system. So the next kind of the follow-up, this is, we're kind of wrap it up, and then we'll get into the Q&A as we need to. For those of you in Canada, we will be at the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Halifax coming up mid next month. We also at IACP, going to be in Orlando. Just finished at NSA and the Noble Conference. So we get around all over the country. So that those of you who are not near, we're happy to provide, we can start with a one-on-one webinar and follow that with a no-cost evaluation. But because we're all over the country, at least all over the United States right now, we may be very close to you as an agency and be able to stop by and give an in-person demo, depending on what all the schedules are, and we can provide you a much more detailed look into the system. So feel free to reach out. We'll give you the contact information here. If you go to our website, visuallabsinc.com or visuallabsinc.ca in Canada, either one will work. There's my name and my personal email address and contact information, but there is also contact information on the website. Again, we're happy to set up demonstrations for you, followed potentially by a no-cost trial if there's an interest, so that you can just try the system out for a month or so and make sure it works for us. And we'll get you in touch with our references and get and anything else you need there. So that's pretty much it. Again, trying to stay under the hour long. We want the technology to speak for itself, so that you can see it firsthand. So again, feel free to reach out to me, or there's a team website there. So I think we're going to jump into questions and let Renee kind of read off some of the questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that informative session, Alexander and Alex. We do have a few questions that have come in, so let's get right to it. Starting things off, this gentleman asks, my service uses Apple devices. Will this software be made available on iOS? And we have a similar question, again, just about iPhones right beneath it.
Yeah, so I'm going to let my colleague Alex talk about that. And the short answer is no for Apple, but he can describe that quickly.
Yeah, one of the reasons is software and one is hardware. The hardware reason, we were actually in Minnesota and someone said, oh, my iPhone was freezing up on me because it was so cold. Those are generally not rugged devices that would meet the standard for public safety. That programmable buttons on many of the Android smartphones really make the experience a lot better. So we could do it. There's just significant limitations from a law enforcement standpoint. Most notably with Android, one of the things that makes our battery life so good and makes the device so multifunctional is all that recording happens in the background and can happen with the screen off. But unfortunately with an iPhone, because it's more of a consumer device and it's a closed source proprietary system, if you are recording a video and then let's say a phone call comes in from a telemarketer, whether you take the call or don't take the call, your body camera recording stops. So we're shooting for 100% reliability. We're generally at 99.999 plus, but that's obviously not a good situation if you're recording on an iPhone and Marriott hotels or someone calls you while you have someone at gunpoint and your recording stops. That's just not acceptable. So never say never, but that's a limitation, at least at this time. And we've had many agencies switch over from iPhone to Android and have remarked that the transition has been pretty easy for them.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, another question. One attendee is interested in learning more about what exactly is your low monthly cost.
Sure, and that it partly is a function of volume, but as you heard on the video, United States $50 per device per month. At the higher volumes, that number will come down. But again, that's a flat fee, includes all the storage, includes all downloads, sharing, if you want to provide prosecuting attorneys access to the system on a long-term basis, that's all included. So we believe in the flat price model so that agencies can budget accordingly. So again, it in almost any case would not exceed $50 US per month per device, and we charge on a per device basis. So you don't have to worry about officers retiring and swapping out different things, and now you have two different officers in the system, even though one has retired, one has replaced them. We're certainly not going to double charge for that.
Okay, great. What about the battery life of the smartphone when used as a body camera?
Sure. Again, it will depend on the Android device itself, but the ruggedized devices typically have heavy-duty batteries, and for the typical phone we're seeing throughout the United States is 10 to 12 and 14, sometimes longer hours. It does depend a little bit on what else you're doing, so that if you're watching whether it's football or hockey highlights on lunch without anything plugged in, that obviously has an impact on battery life. But easily in normal use goes an entire shift.
Good stuff. Okay. What about if the officer is in an area without cellular connectivity? What happens then?
Sure, great question. Again, you do need some connectivity for the live streaming and for the real-time positional awareness. But obviously, folks go down into the level -5 of a parking garage, and videos could be taken. The video not be affected at all. A full functioning of the video once the recording is finished. It is encrypted and saved on the device. The device will look for connectivity right away. If it doesn't have it, it will try every 30 minutes for that re-upload. And it can also just be someone, if they know they pop out of that garage and know they have connectivity, they can upload it manually very quickly.
Wonderful. Okay. And what happens if a cell phone call comes in while a body camera recording is in process?
Sure. Another great question, and that it might have been asked by someone with an iPhone, because if you're recording your child's birthday party and a call comes in, that recording stops. But then that's the nice thing about the Android system. It can do multi-processing, and things can happen in the background, so that while it would be unusual for someone to take a phone call while the body camera is engaged, meaning they're probably engaged with a member of the public, that has happened. We have had agencies take phone calls, make phone calls while body camera recordings are going on. So there really is not an impact there.
Okay, good to know. Another question, based on the earlier answer about Apple and compatibility, this attendee's interested if you could suggest a model of Android phone.
Yeah, it would depend. Again, the phones that are available in the United States are slightly different than those that are available in Canada. I know in Canada, the BlackBerry has one called the Motion, which is an IP67 rated phone. Samsung has a phone that is coming out there. The S9 is very popular throughout. That's IP68 rated. We have Sonam phones, the XP7 or now the new XP8 available in both countries. Kyocera, a very popular device here in the States called the DuraForce Pro. And so we have many different types of agencies using different phones, and it's really what they, what personally works for them the best. As long as it's Android, again, it's not something within the last couple of years, it's compatible with our software.
Fantastic. And we just have one last question. This attendee understands that you won't be able to give an answer to this question right now, but in the future, if they reach out, would you be able to provide a list if departments were wondering about compatibility? For example, this attendee says we use Sonam XP7s, for example.
Sure. We have our software has been deployed on the XP7 as well as the XP8, and we can put any agency that's interested in touch with any handful of our clients, and they can talk about their experiences with various phones as well as ours. And if the IT department of any of your agencies wants to have a more detailed chat about the security behind the system, again, this is in the United States called CJIS compliant, very secure network going to secure cloud. All the footage is encrypted both at rest and in transit. And we take security extremely seriously, as I'm sure all the agencies do.
Wonderful. Okay, well, that wraps up our Q&A session. Thanks again to our knowledgeable presenters for today's informative session. Also, a big thank you to Visual Labs for sponsoring today's webinar. Please fill out the survey that goes out after this webinar. It helps us do our job better and serve you more efficiently in the future. And if you learned anything, please pass it on. Tell your colleagues, tell your friends. From all of us here at Blue Line and Visual Labs, we thank you for joining us. Till next time, bye for now.